Good morning. We start our next lecture material, lecture number 8. Now I open our distance course and we could see the information about our lecture today. Okay, the topic of our lecture number 8 is Fundamentals of Economics of Transport Management and Pricing. It is very interesting and very useful because we now read a lot of different economic factors, but today we will discuss how it could improve on supply chains and how we could use these factors to now information about how work this company. It is good meaning of something or no, and how to understand the results of this checking of development of the company. In the economy of transport, seven factors play a significant role, which must be taken into account when setting tariffs, namely. So it is distance of transportation or range of transportation, it is volume. We could think that it is not economic factors, it is something about transport, about something about quality and how much we deliver something. But no, it is really about transport, about economic factors, because we could discuss this and please see these factors now, and we start to find information about every factors in our lecture materials. So first factor, it is distance of transportation, and we put to see information about distance and about all factors. Distance is the main factor that determines the amount of transport costs because it depends on the amount of variable cost. That is the sum of cost for labor, fuel, maintenance, and repair of rolling stock. First, the amount of cost is never equal to zero. Why? Because the cost curve doesn't pass through the region, since at any distance of transportation there are constant costs for receiving goods and delivering them to recipients. Secondly, as the distance of important transportation increases, the cost curve grows at a decreasing rate. This effect, called the principle of diminishing return, is the result of the fact that the longer the road, the smaller the share of presence in urban area and the greater the share of the journey on trunk intensity roads. So it is a very important factor, and it is really economic factor because depend from this meaning, and we could know how much it costs when we deliver it in a short distance, for example, or on a long distance, and what we could to do it cheaper. For example, sometimes it could be useful. The next parameter, what we factors, it is value. What about value? The second most important factor is the volume of cargo. The larger the cargo volume, the lower the cost per unit of weight. Sometimes it is really such. The reason is that with larger volumes, fixed costs for receiving cargo and delivering them to recipient, as well as administrative costs, are distributed over additional cargo units. The dependency is limited only by the maximum load capacity of the vehicle, for example, trailer or something else. In terms of management, this means that in order to achieve economic of scale, small shipments need to be consolidated into larger ones. But sometimes some owner of cargo don't doesn't want to consolidate their goods with other goods, and sometimes it could be dangerous, sometimes it could be not very good for saving, no, and other meaning. So yes, sometimes it is couldn't be possible. The next factor it is cargo density. The third most important factor is cargo density, the ratio of weight of cargo volume, the space occupied by it. The capacity of individual vehicle is limited by the free space intended for loading. That is by the volume of the cargo rather than by its weight. Since variable costs, labor costs, fuel consumption don't directly depend on weight. The greater the density of the cargo, the cheaper it is to transport a unit of its weight because fixed costs are distributed over additional units of weight. And the next economic factor, it is arrangement. This is a characteristics of the shape and dimensions of the cargo, which affects the use of useful volume of the vehicle, railway car, trailer, or container. Lots of an outward shape or size, as well as essentially long or wide, don't allow optimal use of the volume of the vehicle. Next economic factor, it is freight processing. Loading and unloading of ships, wagons, or trailers may require special landing equipment. In addition, the cost of cargo processing and its turnout, also transport cost, depends on the method of packing goods, on pallets in boxes or boxes in bundles, for example, and other for their transportation and storage because it could help to save time for loading and loading operations. With this process, it could be useful. The next economic factor it is responsibility. In the question of responsibility for the safety of the cargo, six aspects can be distinguished that determine the risk of demand and therefore the probability and consequence of claim by owner of the cargo, namely the danger of damage to the cargo, the danger of loss of the cargo, the danger of spoilage of perishable products, the danger of theft, the danger of involuntary fire or explosion. The specific value of the cargo, for example, calculated per ton of weight, when we calculated on a lot of cargo. Carriers should insure cargo in case of claims by shipper or consignee override. They themselves are responsible for any damage causes to the cargo. So next, it is market factors. It is so interesting because we discuss about economic factor and now market factors. It is could be as the same, but it is a little bit as information. It is the ideal situation is when it is possible to establish balance. For example, equally loaded flights on both directions and other. But this rarely happens due to the universe of demand in production centers and consumption centers. Due to this circumstance, tariffs for transportation in Ukraine in the eastern direction are usually lower. Now, as example, the balance of flights also depends on the seasonal factor during the transportation of drinks in the summer period, in the southern direction, in the return direction, and other. So sometimes it is really works by this type of products and by special directions, and it will. Cost structure. It is our next question. First question we discuss about economic factor. We already discussed every of this, everyone. of these factors. And now we start next our short topic, short topic of our big topic. It is cost structure. Cost allocation is, of course, the responsibility of the carrier, but the shipper also need to have an idea of the cost structure. As part of transport costs, it is customary to distinguish several categories. For example, variable cost, fixed expenses, accompanying expenses, general expenses, and now we could analyze this position and discuss. First, it is variable cost. Variable costs include cost what size is predictably, oh, sorry, predictably and okay, we come back. So variable costs include costs whose size is predictably and directly related to the scale or volume of activity. Variable costs can be avoided only by not carrying out transport operations at all. Barring exceptional situations, transport rates should be such as to at least cover variable costs. The category of variable costs consists of the carrying direct cost for the movement of each cargo. This usually includes the cost of labor, fuel, and vehicle maintenance. No carrier can change a price below each variable cost for its services, otherwise it will go bankrupt. Next, it is fixed costs. Fixed costs are not directly related to the volume of transportation and are subject to coverage even when the company doesn't carry out transportation operations on weekends, for example, or during period of strikes. Fixed costs included capital investment of fixed assets, terminals, roads, informational systems, and the transport fleet. In the short term, fixed costs are covered by the gross profit components of each shipment, which complements the amount of variable costs. Next position, it is accompanying expenses. So accompanying costs are costs that inevitably arise when making a decision of provide a specific service. For example, when the carrier decided to transport cargo from point A to point B, this implicitly implies that impossible of accompanying cost for the return flights from B to H. Such costs from B to H. So such costs are subject to coverage by the original sender of the cargo from A to B, unless a specific position, unless a shipper will be found who needs to deliver something from point B to point A. If it could be possible, it's very good because we could to delivery and to use this for something helping. So, general expenses. General expenses include expenses for administrative and management apparatus, maintenance of terminals, etc. Due to the significant share of associated and general costs, it is difficult for carriers to constantly maintain such a level of tariffs that would ensure both profitability and competitiveness. The carrier has to agree with the senders of the cargo, the amount of tariff rates, but at the same time, he must periodically review them to make sure of their adequacy and profitability. So it is our next short topics about cost in structure, because sometimes we used all of this part of cost in our calculations for delivery from point A to point B, and we need to know all this information and calculated it and think about our decision. So, principal strategies what we could use in our delivery process. When setting prices for transportation service, a carrier can use one of two principal strategies or a combination of them. So, pricing based on cost of transport services. This pricing strategy boils down the setting rates based on transportation cost with some margin added. If, for example, the cost of transportation services is 2,000 hryvnias and the profit rate is 10%, the carrier will invoice the sender of the cargo for 2,200 hryvnias. This method of pricing, which provided a basic or minimum level of tariff rates, is used when transporting low-value goods or in conditions of very intense competition. So, pricing based on the cost of transport services in this pricing strategy, the basis of the tariff is not so much the cost for transport service as their estimated value for the sender of the cargo. For example, shipping optoelectronic equipment clearly has a different value to the shipper than shipping of ton of coal, simply because the equipment costs so much more. Then, in the first case, the shipper will most likely agree to pay a higher price for transportation. So, we need to discuss every position. Carriers use this pricing method when dealing with valuable cargo or when there is little competition in the transport market. Combined principal strategies, of course, it is more useful and more often for using. It is based on this strategy. The tariff is set at some intermediate level between the minimum cost plus profit and the maximum estimation of the cost of the service for the shipper. This is the approach most transport companies use in practice. Of course, because sometimes it is difficult to use only one strategy or second strategy, it is better to use to complete these different strategies. So tariff rates, it is our next short topic. It is about tariff rates. When assigning prices for transportation, the tariff and statistical nomenclature of goods is used which is the basis of classification tariff rates. So, what is this classification? Cargoes that are similar in terms of density, structure, features of processing, loading, unloading operation, liability, and cost characteristics are combined into a single tariff group, a class, for example, or which reduce the number of possible tariffs for transportation. For example, in the US, there are different cargo classification systems for rail transport and track carriers. The first allocated 23 classes of goods. The second 31 classes in Ukraine. For Ukrainian classifier of goods includes 21 classes for all types of carriers. The main classification tool is a relative percentage index with a base value of 100. Class 100 is assigned to an average load, while other loads in road transport are assigned to classes ranging from 500 to 35. It is interesting because some type of goods could change these classes because we could use as a pack, for example, or something else, and could change these classes and our delivery process will start cheaper. With a rating of 400, for example, transport costs will be approximated for 4 times higher than with a rating of 100. The same cargoes of shipment with an incomplete transit rate received a much higher tariff rating than for shipment with the volume of the transit rate. So, one of the most important tasks of logistics management is to ensure that all of these company shipments are assigned the best possible rating. Thanks for the correct classification or appropriate change in the packing and volume of cargo shipment, which allow lowering the tariff rating on transported products. Considerable saving can be achievement. For example, cotton products have a fairly high rating of 125, since the goods usually produced from them have a low density. But the managers of companies such as company Procter and Gamble in Kimberly Clark changed the packing, and as a result of which it was possible to increase the density of the goods, I agree to reduce the rotator to 77.5. So from 125, we could to find other positions that the very big difference between first position and second position, and it was depending from parking. It was really, really very, very good result. So, pricing. When the cargo is assigned in the appropriate rating, it remains determines the appropriate tariff rate. Also, certain allowances are usually added to the minimum rate when calculated the actual fee. The published tariffs cover all cargo classes for all combinations of points of departure and destination. Two more forms of transportation payment are widely used at the minimum rate with allowances. The minimum price is the amount that the sample of cargo must pay simply for the fact of carrying out the transportation regardless of age of the cargo. Let, for example, the classification tariff rate is $15 per 100 tons. And the consignator needs to deliver 100 tons of goods to a certain destination. In the absence of minimum rate, he would pay the same $15. But if the minimum rate is $150 for the transportation of a shipment, he will have to pay this amount, which is intended to cover the fixed cost incurred for one shipment. So, such change is an additional fee intended to cover special costs of the carrying. Usually, carrying applies such an of compensation for sharp increases in fuel prices. In such cases, significant can reach 10 or between 10-20% of the basic tariff rates. Certain protects the carrier from enforcement costs. One type of tariffs may also be applied. What it means? For example, wholesale tariffs, it could be exceptional tariffs, it could be aggregated order tariff, tariff for incomplete service, and other. So we need to understand which type of it we need and how we could use it for our activity. So, when regular transportation is significant volumes of uniform cargo is established from one place to another, carrier usually set wholesale tariffs that are not tied to standard classificator. So today, the majority of railway transportation is paid for by wholesale tariffs. They are not so common in vehicles. So special tariffs have been introduced to encourage transport either in specific areas or to a specific destination or of certain goods when justified by the volume of cargo flows of the conditions of competition. So the tariff of an aggregate order is used when the sender of the cargo is exchanged for a discount or payment at an exceptional tariff agrees to form a mixed cargo shipment for transportation or other. A partial service tariff is used in cases when the shipper takes over some of traditional functional carriers, such as loading trailers, in exchange for a discount. An example is the payment of transportation according to the sender loads and counts here. When the sender of the cargo himself is responsible for loading to service and accounting for the loading package. The functions of the carriers in the logistic systems are by no means limited to the movement of goods from one place to another. In addition to basic service, railways and trucking companies also provide special or related service that facilitate the planning of logistics operations. Collection of payment for cargo delivery, it could be making and labeling of goods in transit, it could be delivery warning, reconsignment, changing the delivery route of the address recipient of the cargo on one way and other. So direct delivery to the recipient, not the cargo warehouse. Sometimes sorting and breaking up of cargo before delivery to the recipient, storage before delivery to recipient, and etc. So our next short topic it is about making decision about transportation. And we need to discuss that we need to find five steps for each. The transport department is responsible not only for the payment of transport, but also for audit of transport operations. It is drawing up release, it is negotiating of the amount of tariff rates, tracking and forwarding of cargo transportation, and conducting research. Okay, so it is interesting information for discussion in our second part. I think we could do it in our second part of lecture. So I stopped our records.